Humble fam. How about y'all come on in and let's have us another visit here on The Humble Show. I'm Grant Fletcher, and I am being joined by my co-host, Brandon Cox. And there he is, Brandon.
Here I am. I've been hiding the whole time, but here I am once again for this week.
Hidden in plain sight, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty cool. I'm doing all right, having a good time.
Good.
How about you? How are you feeling?
Well, all right, so my body is betraying me. And I was getting Christmas decorations out, and I pulled a muscle in my shoulder, and haven't been able to use it's like this one here, this front deltoid right here. It's this like little muscle, and you don't realize like how much you need that one thing for like everything until you can't use it anymore.
Absolutely.
So, like, I'm at a point right now where, like, it doesn't really hurt anymore, but, like, my arm just feels, like, heavy, and so it's just, like, useless to me right now. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping I can get back to lifting weights and doing push-ups and stuff in about a week, but...
So you can give some nerds some noogies.
Give some nerds some noogies, that's right. Why else would you be lifting weights and doing push-ups other than to give nerds noogies, right?
The way that you phrase that reminds me of an old Vine that I saw. I think it went something along the lines of, one time I nearly won a limbo contest, but then I saw a voluptuous woman and my body betrayed me. But yours wasn't that fun.
No. Was that some sort of Mitch Hedberg-esque Vine, I guess?
Now that I think about it, that delivery is very on par with Mitch Hedberg.
He would have been dead by then too, huh?
Hella dead.
Like, I'm looking it up right now. Let's see, Mitch Hedberg, great comedian. Yeah, passed away in March of 2005. Yeah, Vine wasn't a thing for a long time.
Yeah,
and by then, but he had a couple albums that were worth checking out. He even had a posthumous album too.
Yeah.
It was like a dry run for an album he was recording as like a test. They decided to go ahead and release it. Still pretty good, I
need to go back and listen to some of those, because there's some of those obligatory comedians that are heavily revered to this day.
Yeah.
That I think in some instances have not aged all too well. Like, I mean, all due respect by all means, because they changed the game, and I'm nobody who can throw any shade, but like some of Bill Hicks stuff is just like, I won't say by no means was he like edgelord, but just very like on the nose, cynical, like weak cynical.
Yeah, like, well, it's just I think that's one of those things that's just sort of indicative of how comedy and stand up just evolves over time. People's tastes change or whatever. Yeah. But like for me, it's even like Sam Kinison. Like so many people revere Sam Kinison, and when I listen to it, it's like
it's like me watching an episode of Bob's Burgers. Just like this son of a gun just screaming the whole time. I will say though that I think that he could have had he lived, he could have had a really good movie career, because I love his character in, like, say, Back to School.
Oh yeah. No, he definitely could have been a really good character actor.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, he was, but like he could have had a bigger career as a character actor. Yes.
Also, I think he's kind of like an archetype in the South. Like, I know a lot of kind of like big, burly, loud dudes who like grew up in the church, and then they came of age, like especially like Pentecostals, like they came of age and they just became wild boys.
Yeah, that happens sometimes, man. You keep it all bottled up for so long, it's all going to come out eventually.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, do you have a song recommendation for us this week?
Yeah. I got once again, I got two.
Okay.
I got the song So Low by Royal Headache from their live album that came out earlier this year, Live in America. I feel like it's anytime I hear of a band music saving somebody. Like, I know music's powerful. I know that music means a lot to a whole lot of people. Music means a whole lot to me. But anytime I hear like, oh, this, this music saved my life, it's usually like 3 Days Grace or some shit.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, well, I'm glad that shit saved your life. But like Royal Headache, saved me in a very low time in my life. The song I'm recommending is So Low, and I was feeling very so low, but I would put their self-titled album on and drive back to a community college because I flunked out of university.
As one
play
does.
This album, and as one does, and I would put that album on, and no matter how many times I played it, and to this day, no matter how many times I play it, it lifts me up. It's a really good, it's a garagey punk album, but the vocals are so soulful. It's amazing. I once heard the vocalist compared to Otis Redding, but it's not quite that. But his vocals are really good. Vocalist's name is Shogun, or at least that's what he goes by. They broke up in 2017, and from what Shogun says, I think he phrased the breakup as an emotional holocaust, which is saying something. That's a whole lot.
I mean, that's saying a lot. Yeah,
that's saying a lot.
Not like, oh, it just didn't work out.
I don't know if our listeners at home are familiar with the Holocaust, but I mean, if
you might have heard about this.
You might have heard about it. That's saying something.
Yeah.
So, and like, it's to the point to where like pretty much all the members but the vocalist Shogun retired from music. Whatever happened, everybody quit music but Shogun. But now nowadays Shogun is in a band called Antenna, and rarely do I approach like a vocalist of a favorite band, their new project with much I don't know, with much enthusiasm, because like the vocals are there, but it's like, oh wow, the songwriting is clearly missing from the previous band. In this instance, it's all there. Like, all due respect to the boys and girls from Royal Headache, but Antenna's got it going on. They're pushing out that same fantastic stuff. And the song that I would recommend from them is Antenna State by the band Antenna. Normally I would not. I would like the lyrics are trite and very. It sounds like it's the 5th song on the EP, and it sounds like he walked into the studio and they're like, hey, all right, we're recording 5 songs. They're like, oh, I thought we were recording 4 songs. I only had lyrics for 4 songs. The lyrics are bad. They sounded like they were improvised, but he makes up for just the lyrical belting out. It just reaches your soul, and it's amazing. So yeah, Royal Headache, So Low, and Antenna State.
Yeah, it's like lyrically, right? It makes me think of like NoFX. Like,
yeah. So it's I don't know.
A lot of those songs like aren't they're not really, don't really sound that deep, but they're great songs, right?
Well, this is even more like, it almost sounds like a parody of what he'd usually sing. It's just so on the nose, and there's so many lyrical it's kind of contrived, but like it's like he just belts it out so hard that you don't even care what he says. It's just so good. Once again, very soulful, poignant vocals.
Yeah, it doesn't always, like you said, it doesn't always work out whenever the lead singer leaves. You ever heard Bruce Dickinson's solo project?
No.
Yeah,
no, I actually haven't.
Yeah, from Iron Maiden, whenever he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing for a little bit.
In the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, and then Iron Maiden replaced him, and they released an album that was just, X Factor, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And then Bruce Dickinson released his own album, and it was just, nah. And then they were both like, hey, do y'all want to like not do this anymore and start like doing the other thing we were doing before?
You want to actually be good?
Yeah. And then that's what happened.
Yeah. Good. Sometimes, you need your peanut butter with your jelly.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes the most sense that way.
You ever had a jelly sandwich? It's all right. You ever had a peanut butter sandwich?
It's fine.
That's okay. Quick little Philly lunch. Have you ever had a peanut butter jelly sandwich?
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, look, I have one here. Last week we talked about non-traditional Christmas songs, putting together a playlist of those. And I realized somewhere along the way that I left out Christmas Rappin' by Kurtis Blow. And
wow.
I was like, oh man, how did I forget Christmas Rappin' by Kurtis Blow?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go ahead and give away. I had a different song I was going to recommend, but I'm going to go ahead and give away my recommendation this week for Christmas Rappin' by Kurtis Blow. I know it could do two, but then like the other one wouldn't go with this at all, so it wouldn't make any sense. So I'm not going to bother. So anyways, go ahead and put that one on your non-traditional Christmas song list.
I'll be honest, like a lot of those like first wave hip hop dudes I know next to nothing about, or like, whether it be like who they are, what their music was, but I do distinctly recall something that happened. I think it was like it was one of the last albums that Kurtis Blow released. I think it was released in '85. He had which I don't know. You would think that backup singers have agency, but like oh shoot. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Famous folk rock singer from the mid '60s to now. I'm trying to think of his name. He has an album called Blonde on Blonde. Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Okay, I was gonna be like, are you having trouble thinking of Neil Young? And then you change.
No, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan asked Kurtis Blow if he could use his backup singers for one of his horseshit '80s albums, and I forget if Kurtis Blow, which I don't know what would be funnier. I don't know if Kurtis Blow was like, okay, Bob Dylan, but you have to guest on the intro song on my album. Or if Bob Dylan was like, okay, Kurtis Blow, thank you. I'm going to appear as guest vocalist on the first song on your album. But as a result, you have rapping Bob Dylan on a Kurtis Blow album. And it's what a wonderful world we live in.
Emily Kurtis Blow was like, either this is going to work and everyone's going to think I'm a genius, or people are going to tune in for the novelty of it all. Either way, it's a win.
I'd like to think that he had the foresight to be more of maybe somewhere in the middle. Like, hey, I have this legend, this living legend on my album, and if it sucks, good, and if it's good. Either way, I have Bob Dylan rapping on my album.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a terrible strategy.
No,
not at all. Not
like, if I could get Bette Midler to like rap on some shit, like I would absolutely,
Yep.
Anytime you can get a legend doing something daring and new, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, really, for real.
Yeah.
I think you definitely got to jump in there, and I think to kind of keep this thing going, we are gonna, like I said, we're gonna continue the Christmas music conversation very soon. We have some guests we're talking about chopping that up with very soon. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a really cool focus here. But one of the things I want to talk about today is a couple weeks ago we looked at retro Halloween, right? Like, what was Halloween like?
Yeah.
When you were a kid.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really examine that this week as well and talk a little more about like what was Christmas like when you were a kid, but specifically like what were like the hot items when you were a kid, right? Like what was the thing that that everybody was fighting over in the toy aisle, and we'll get to that as well. Don't you worry. But you know, and maybe this is ill-advised because we're going to be showing our age. I look at our YouTube metrics, and our audience tends to skew a little bit younger than you and I actually are.
Good.
And I don't even know if we've actually said on air how old both of us are. But at the same time,
the answer is don't worry about it.
The answer is don't worry about it. But we are going to go ahead and just talk about this series because Brandon, you were born in 1990.
Yeah, and thankfully our target audience went through those COVID years and can't do math.
That's right. Yeah. There was the regression there, so it's fine. Look, man, you know, I brought this up recently in person here because I do I have a weekly trivia gig here in town.
You do.
And like I've been doing it for a long time.
And you have a semi-monthly trivia that you do in this town.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing that. I'll be doing that this coming Saturday. So as this drops, it'll actually have already.
So as this drops, you've already missed.
It's already happened, but it doesn't worry anyway. If you're not local to Neshoba County, it won't really matter, I guess. But
yeah.
Either way, yeah. So like I am aware that like most of my audience there was born after 9/11, and they are, they're full-grown adults. It's the way that it is. So,
and they've never known a moment of peace.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's weird, right? Like you never knew the world before that happened. But I digress. So I want to take a look at what some of those hot items were like the year you were born, Brandon. So you want to know what some of the big things were when you were first born on your first Christmas year?
God, please don't tell me it was like Tiddlywinks.
they only have Lincoln Logs.
I'm so scared that it's gonna be like some antiquated, like in 1990, I distinctly remember like as soon as I was born, being like inundated with awesome Transformers. So you know what? No, toys weren't as antiquated as I was initially thinking.
Nah, man. Yeah, the 80s, the mid to late 80s is when like the revolution happened, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm gonna lay it out for you here right now. One of the top items from 1990, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Party Wagon.
What?
The van with all the cool. I had one of these. You didn't have one of these?
Did you? No.
Yeah, it was like the van with all like with the gunner seat and the bombs and the guns and things like that on it. Yeah.
Pulling up to the function in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Party Wagon.
A cool thing, you could fit all the turtles in there, and it had all the accessories and everything. Yeah,
and the turtles, they're up to their old tricks.
Yeah, exactly. Always. We were talking about this recently with my buddy Corey, who comes to all of our shows, volunteers at the shows with us as well. Yeah. Ninja Turtles was notorious for introducing a character or an item or a weapon, and they use it like for maybe a few seconds, and then all of a sudden there's a ton of them on toy shelves.
Yeah,
one of them specifically was the pizza launcher, right? Like they had this little device that would launch a pizza, and basically it's like they're like, oh, use the pizza launcher, and they pull it out, they launch a pizza, and then they throw it down, and that's it. That is all you get of the pizza launcher, and yet it was on the shelf like the next day.
Look, if I know these turtles, like I know you know them, they have to be in dire straits in a battle to be like, hey, you know that thing that we get, and that's the reason canonically why we live. It's like our main passion in life. Let's toss that at an enemy. It's not going to really do anything other than a slight distraction. But yeah, that tasty thing that we love so much, let's load it in a what are those called?
Like a catapult of sorts, or like a.
Well, I was thinking, I was like a blundercust or
a blunderbuss.
Yeah, maybe like the gun that just shoots whatever you put in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like let's shoot the thing that we love at the person that we hate, and it's not going to do anything.
Right.
But
you and I both know Brian Tochi, who is Leonardo in the trilogy, the original trilogy. So we need to ask him: Would this be a thing that Leonardo would actually use?
Would you, as a Ninja Turtle? I mean, it's like an episode of Ed, Edd n Eddy where they would have a jawbreaker slingshot. It just makes no sense. It's
Right.
it's the thing that they want.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've engaged in any sort of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles media, but I just imagine that it's like you're tossing the thing. It's like Indiana Jones having a slingshot for the Lost Ark. It's like, oh, they're coming after me, gonna have to whoop, and just like throwing the Lost Ark at somebody.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but it's true.
Why would they shoot a pizza at their enemy? That's what they want.
Now, I'll tell you this, Brandon, real quick. There's a couple of video game type related things that were also big that year as well, 1990.
Oh, Lord.
First, the Game Boy, the original.
Did that come out in 1990?
Yeah.
I thought that was 89. Right on.
It might. Well, it was maybe 88.
But it was the hot toy for.
Yes, exactly. When you're talking about like game consoles like that, I mean, they still do kind of in this sort of way, but like they really did hang around, for the holidays, for a couple of years back then. The Game Gear, I think, was a big item as well, especially portable things too. Now, another popular one in 1990 was Dr. Mario.
For the Game Boy?
The NES.
Oh, for the NES.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Now, Brandon, have you heard this theory? I saw this kid had this theory on TikTok.
Okay.
That Dr. Mario is not Mario as a doctor. He's the third Mario brother. Have you heard this?
So, is this just like someone spitballing, or did they provide?
Well, I don't know. They laid it out pretty good. So it's like this, right? So they're the Mario brothers.
Okay.
Right? So their last name is Mario. It stands to reason, correct? So
right.
Luigi Mario. You have Mario.
Yeah.
And then you have Dr. Mario, right? And in the Super Smash Brothers game, you have Mario and Luigi, and they have different costumes and things that they can wear.
Right.
But Dr. Mario is a whole separate character. And then in the Mario movie, when they have their plumbing company, I don't know if you've seen this one, the animated one, the more recent one that came out, but their dad makes a comment like, why couldn't you be more like your brother who's a successful doctor?
Okay. Yeah, this kid on TikTok might be onto something.
Right, exactly. So he's not, it's not that it's Mario as a doctor. He's the third brother.
Which I imagine that like the father in the film said this to be kind, because the other two brothers are plumbers. And Dr. Mario, as far as I can tell, just throws capsules into a pill bottle. And I guess he can whip some ass because he's in Super Smash Brothers. So I imagine he said that to like make Dr. Mario feel like Dr. Mario is as much of a doctor as I am a race car driver, because I had Hot Wheels. But hey, I can see how he could be a third boy in that family.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And it'll always hold its place here too. Like I hope some of these items here as well, because what I want to do as well here, Brandon, is I want to jump ahead. To about 10 years into the future for you as well.
Okay.
So when you're about 10, around the 97 area.
Okay, 97.
Wait. All right, I'm looking at the wrong one here. I'm looking at mine. Oops, I given the game.
You went too far into the future.
Giving the game away. What are we doing?
You'll never be able to prevent 9/11 now.
No, there's some things that actually were big. Now, some of the things that were big were the Nintendo Wii when you were about 10 years old.
Wait,
now we're still pre 9/11 here. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. You said the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
In pre 9/11?
Like I'm roughly in that area. I'm not talking about like exactly.
Hold on. The Nintendo Wii?
No. When you're 10, no, sorry, I'm saying this wrong here. I'm saying roughly around the time that you were that age. I mean, I guess you would have probably been closer to like 15, I guess, when that came out.
I was 16-ish. Yeah, I was 16 whenever the 16? Wii came out.
Oh yeah, you would have been. You're right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm looking at the wrong line here. Let's see. Hold on. Oh no, I see what I did here. I looked at 2000s and not the year 2000 is the problem.
Yeah. Man,
it doesn't really matter, though.
if the Wii came out pre 9/11, there would be a whole lot more like Photoshop gifs
Could
of
you
like
imagine? Oh yeah, no.
of the
Actually,
Wiimote hitting the Twin Towers.
There's a really funny video of someone playing Nintendo 64, and they see the footage on. I'm not going to go into it. I'll show it to you when we're done here, Brendan. But it's very good.
We don't want to upset Pete from SNL.
We're all like very much just sort of like collectively traumatized, I guess.
I'm all right.
I'm doing okay here. I'm doing fine.
I'm doing cool.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here with this. Why it's not showing me here? Because it's showing me Bratz dolls.
That was around the year 2000, 2001. Yeah.
I had something pulled up here too. Around the same time as well, the Bionicle would have been very big.
Oh baby. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, gotta have my Bionicles.
Of course, the PlayStation 2 would have been big at the time.
Oh, that's the console
as well. Yeah. So those would have been pretty hot items right there too, man.
Oh, absolutely.
PS2. I feel like PS1 revolutionary for me. I feel like the PS2 just kind of blew the whole thing wide open for me, though.
I was an N64 boy.
And man, if you got a Destiny's Child CD in 2000. You're doing all right.
Oh man, yeah. And then you had that middle school friend of yours that was like, "Hey, I've totally been with those girls." Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Of course. Now, hold on. Let's take it back though, because we need to examine mine here too. So,
okay. Yeah.
And so 1987 was my year. If you can believe that. Some of the hot items in 87. The Sylvanian families. Do you know what that is?
No.
So it's those little little rabbit people figurines when they have like little houses and accessories and things like that. You've seen them. Like, they're like little cute little animal characters.
Yeah.
They're just like tiny dolls,
Okay.
And they have all kinds of just sort of different kind of lifestyle type accessories with them, the Sylvanian families. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
Also, it was the 80s, everybody. The Koosh ball, still a hot item back then.
Oh, man, the Koosh balls. Yeah.
Now, the Sega Master System was still on the shelf at the time.
Did that sell in the US? I know that was big in like Brazil and the UK, but like
I think it did. I just don't think it was great popular. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think like pretty much the only like real success they had in the US was the Genesis.
Yeah.
The Sega Master came out. It looks like 2005, 1985.
Yeah.
Was when the Sega Master System came out, so it still would have been on the shelves in 87. Yeah, but really they had the Genesis, and then the Dreamcast came out, and that did not do well either. And then
you forgot about the Saturn, and in addition,
the Sega Saturn really didn't perform that well.
All of the ridiculous add-ons for the Genesis, the 32X in the Sega CD, and God knows what the hell else.
Yeah. Maybe
it was ungodly.
Too quick. Yeah,
an affront to God.
Maybe that's what it was. They were just going too fast,
I think so, because they kept building up, like, because they had like they just had like like the 32X, so you could put into the drive, and then you could put in the combination, like Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. You could just stack it to the sky. It was a Tower of Babel. God struck it down.
Yeah, you got to know, man. You got to know. I'll tell you this though, around the 80s too, not necessarily that year, but like in that time frame, Cabbage Patch Kids would have been huge.
Oh my God! So, my grandparents, owned an they owned a Western Auto, which for the kids at home who don't know what that is, it was like an automotive store, but they also sold appliances and things of that nature. And so back then, I guess you could just buy whatever via these catalogs, because in addition to like, bicycles for children and things like that, they would just carry like the occasional toy, like, especially like around Christmas time, they would get toys. They at like the top shelf around the store, they had, and this was like I started noticing these whenever I was like 3 or 4. They had Cabbage Patch Kids from like 86, 87, but the thing is, they were on the top shelf around the store of a greasy automotive store. And so in addition to them looking like Cabbage Patch Kids, aka Little Nightmares, they looked increasingly decrepit because of the area that they were in.
Yeah.
And so growing up, like, 2 or 3, you point those suckers out, and like your parents are like, oh yeah, a Cabbage Patch Kid. Yeah, that's a Cabbage Patch Kid. That used to be the coolest thing around town. And even as a 3 or 4-year-old, you're just like, I don't think so.
Yeah, something's not adding up here at all.
No.
No. Now, if Cabbage Patch Kids weren't your thing, of course, Pound Puppies were always a big deal in the 80s. And they tried to bring
That's what
back,
the furries are into.
Yeah, that's what the furries were into. That's right. That's where it started.
Pound Puppies.
Jesus.
This show's for the kids.
This is for the kids. I feel like we should move on. How about Talking Alf? Remember Alf?
Oh, Alf always talked.
No, never mind. I think it was like a pull string doll. Man, the pull string Bart Simpson was a big deal whenever it came out too. I don't know if you know that or not, but it was a huge deal when that came out. Now, but if we're jumping ahead for me 10 years as well.
Yeah.
In 1997, one of the hot Christmas items was the Barbie Sunjammer 4x4. It was like a Jeep that you could actually ride in. Like, it was a Power Wheel basically, but just branded. Tamagotchis and Gigapets were a big deal.
I think I had a Gigapet. I had a Tamagotchi. I think I had a Gigapet.
I couldn't tell you which one I had, but I feel like they were, like, everyone would claim one was better than the other. I feel like they were pretty close to the same thing. That's just me.
I want to say that Gigapets were like produced in the West, and I don't think it quite got what the appeal was. Or like had a sense of time, a sense of decent time. Like mine would like have a birthday. Mine had a birthday like 2 or 3 days after I got it, and then proceeded to shit itself to death. And after that, I was just like, I don't want this thing anymore. 3 a.m.
It's kind of what they did, right?
Yeah.
I do want to say this though, because you mentioned like Tiddlywinks or whatever. 97, K'Nex was a big deal. Do you remember K'Nex?
Oh yeah. So what year? In 97?
97, yeah.
Yeah, I got some K'Nex sets whenever I was little. In fact, friend of the show, Nim, I got her for her last birthday a K'Nex set.
That's
awesome.
And
whenever I say I got it for her, what I mean is about a decade prior, I saw that it was on sale. I was like, you know what? Eventually there's going to be a small child in my life that I can give this to. And a decade later, surely enough, she got a K'Nex set. It was a dinosaur roller coaster.
That's awesome. So you passed it on. I like that. I like the spirit of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great idea. I do want to point out though, in 1997, a couple of video game related things. These are things that came out, the fall before, in the year before rather. But the Nintendo 64 specifically, we're talking about hot games for the Nintendo 64 at the time. Diddy Kong Racing would have been one, and GoldenEye 007.
Oh my gosh!
Easily the best first-person shooter of all time. For me,
and if you look,
I'm gonna be controversial right now. I'll just say it. I'm just gonna say it definitively. GoldenEye 007, best FPS of all time. Come at me.
Maybe not best, but absolutely the most fun. Like to this day, give me a Colt 45 in a room full of sweaty dudes, and I'll have some fun.
There you go.
It's a very, if you go back and play it, it's a very slow paced game. And considering that the team that made that game like they had just come off of like 2D games. It was a team of like maybe like 22 or 23 people. Given it, like, I don't know how many people realize this. That game was released like 2 or 3 years after GoldenEye, the film.
Yeah, which is weird, right?
Well, it is and it isn't. You know, because you had a team of like 22 or 23 people who, you know, anyway.
Right.
No, that is, God, I remember being 6 or 7, living in the South, and saying the word snipper in front of like the room of boys I was playing with, and they were like, no, it's sniper. You need to get it's pronounced sniper.
Sniper.
Yeah.
No, it ain't snipper, it's sniper.
Yeah, my bad, dude.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah.
I do want to point out though, for the PS1, the Final Fantasy VII would have been the big title at the time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there were plenty of other big titles, but that probably, for me, I mean, that one like reigned supreme on the PS1. I mean, the PS1 came out in '95, but again, still was going around by '97. Still pretty strong by 1997.
Oh, dude, yeah.
But one of the things that was really popular around that time was just insane around that time. I don't know if you remember this, but when Tickle Me Elmo came out.
Oh yeah.
In '97.
That was a hot toy.
It was not only it was bad. It was real bad.
Oh yeah, parents got trampled.
Yeah,
and, like
people were
like they fist fought.
Yeah, there was a shortage of Tickle Me Elmos. They didn't. Yeah. I don't know if they just didn't realize it would be this popular, or what. But yeah, there was a problem. Like I remember seeing the news stories about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was what a wild time in the history.
And
of
the thing is, like I don't know. Like I just wonder if there was a kid. Like I mean. I can't say this from experience, but like I feel like there's this undue pressure that's put on parents. Maybe not so much these days, but back whenever you had brick and mortar stores that required, you know, physical space, physical inventory. I don't know. Like I just feel like so many parents back then were tricked.
Yeah, maybe so.
Into thinking like, hey, no, if you don't get this for your kid, you know, they're gonna hate you. Like. I think in '97, December '97, I was 7. My little sister was 2, I believe, and she was 3. But in either case, both of us, like she was too young for Tickle Me Elmo. I was too old because I was 7 and cool, you know. So both of us kind of we missed that. Good, which was good.
It was probably good, yeah. Yeah, for real. Probably for the best that you missed that, man. I you know, talking about doing interviews and working with people, and you know, working with the Power Rangers, which you know, the year I got the Megazord, that was like the big.
That was a good year.
But
yeah,
the original one. But
I had the Megazord. I had like the Megazord from like Power Rangers Zeo.
Yeah.
There was like, man, I could use me a Megazord right now. Like if someone were to give me it doesn't even have to be like a vintage. Like if they made like a modern Megazord, I would be all about that.
There may or may not be a way that I could make that happen.
Oh.
I have a machine that can make one.
Oh my gosh. But can it like transform like
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't do all that.
Oh, see that was
I don't want to get your hopes up. It's just the robot part of it, but you can make it in a custom color design, whatever.
See that
I've been thinking about it because it's going to take me a minute to do it, but you know.
Much like I think I mentioned Legos on this show before, like much like Legos, like I would build them, and like that would be so much fun. I love building it, but then like whenever it would be done, I'd be like, you know, I'd like put it down. I'm like, well, that's a big plastic thing that I have
I'm done with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Much in the same line, like I distinctly remember like the Megazords that I had whenever I was younger, which God, can you imagine like that was like 5 separate things that you could buy in one pack. You didn't have to like buy them separately and like, oh, one was more collectible than the other. You could just buy it and it was great. It was amazing. And
it all came in one box. You could switch it back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved making them transform. And whenever it was whole and just by itself and doing its own thing, I didn't care. I wanted it to transform and untransform and transform. It was great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can take it apart and put it back together. The Lego set. I mean, it's great, amazing. I love Legos, but
Yeah.
you know, my daughter and I, we build them as often as we can. But yeah, once you're done with it, you're done with it, right? So
Yeah.
because you don't want to mess it up. Like you don't want to mess with it too much because you don't want to also like the whole thing to fall apart. But
Exactly.
yeah, Transformers in the same vein. You know, same kind of idea, right?
And the thing is, like, if a Lego set fell apart and I did not have the instructions, I was not creative enough to be like, okay, I'll either create a new thing, it'll be cool, or I will put it back together because I'm a smart boy. I didn't have either of those functions.
Well, now, now they have an app that has the instruction manuals for all of the kits in the app. I know, right?
I feel like children should have to deal with the reality of failure. Your mother like brushed up against your Lego set and it fell to the ground, and she doesn't tell you, and you go into your room and it's broken, and you're just like, I guess that's just gonna be a bunch of pieces from now on.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, look, I have those memories myself. You know, and it just bears mentioning. But the Power Ranger thing on that same note, one of the times that we worked with Walter Jones and Austin St. John,
cool boys,
Jason and Zach from the original. I remember, I think it was Austin St. John said that, you know, or they both mentioned that they never got any of the toys. Like they were never given any of them that like had their faces on them, or that was their character. And so, you know, they were talking about just like the craze of those. Like everybody would camp out and like figure out like when the shipment would come in because it was such a hot item.
Yeah.
And Austin St. John was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try to go get some," and he did. And all he did was like, he's like, "Well, I can't go in there like when everyone's in there because like that's gonna be like." What do you think's going to happen to me, you know, whenever I do that, right?
He's going to get tackled by 20 kids.
Right. So he waits it out to see, like, what's left, and he goes in there, and, like, the store's just, like, ransacked. Everything is gone. Yeah, I mean, listen, that is what Jingle All the Way is about.
It is.
Based on a true story.
And don't you forget it.
Yeah, for real. That's that wasn't just like some funny haha comedy that they dreamed up out of nowhere. Like there was a concept that movie is based on.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. But I do want to know, Humble Family, I mean, what was that thing? Like, what was your item growing up that was just the cool Christmas item that you got? I mean,
I feel like there's one more that I need to mention.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm slightly showing my privilege because, like, you know, while I was not just super upper middle class whenever I was a kid, like I had a bunch of like really, really, really upper middle class friends whenever I was a kid. There was a Christmas, I think it was either the year 2001 or 2002, that like electric scooters. I'm talking about them big bulky MFers that like were like 20 pounds and they could not like fold and contract, and they like would go for like 40 minutes before you had to like put it back on the charger. There was a year that like every like upper middle class kid got one of those, and I mean I didn't, but I'll be honest, I got on one of those before. I was like, I can go faster than this on my bike, I don't care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They were really cool, but like you said, like once they ran out of battery, and also they were not as fast. But I do remember that being a thing at one point in time. I do remember that going around.
Those like for one Christmas, which is funny because I think like the previous Christmas, Razor scooters were really big.
Right. Yeah. Just the year before, everybody was on the Razor scooter, and then what happened was,
I don't want to push this no more.
They all got their shins bashed in by the Razor scooter, and then they wanted the electric one after that.
These kids were handy capable. You had to give them electric scooters.
They were just beaten and battered by that Razor scooter so much that they had to have the electric one by the time that one came out.
You had to. Or you were a bad parent.
Or you were a bad parent. That's right. Yeah. That's the idea. But yeah, Humble Fam, I do want to know, like, what was that item that was just like the cool Christmas item you got whenever you were a kid? I mean, it could have been a Furby. Could have been a Game Boy or a Sega Game Gear. I mean, it could have even been like G.I. Joes or like, there was a period of time in the 90s where everybody was yo-yoing again all of a sudden.
Oh my gosh. What was that? Like 97?
Yeah. 97, 98. Yeah.
Yeah. The yo-yos lit up. And my God. Yeah. I was there for that.
Yeah. There was a period of time where we were all yo-yoing and hacky sacking. And it's, you know what? Honestly, I'm going to say it right now. It was pretty great. Okay. It was pretty, I'm not going to lie about it. Okay. I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't what it was.
It was like
it's just inexplicable. That's the only thing. That's my only issue with it is I don't understand why, but it was.
Can we like bring that back in 2024? Like kids start playing stickball again?
Start stickballing, start yo-yoing, start hacky sacking. I'm for it, everybody. That's my platform that I'm going to run on in 2028. Just you wait. Bring back hacky sack. That's going to be my campaign slogan.
Sack. I feel like hacky sacks lead to like Jimi Hendrix posters on the wall, which nobody likes that.
Yeah, MC Escher drawings on the wall as well.
Oh God!
People in that seem to be really into, the ones of the stairs that go all over the place into nowhere.
I will say that's kind of cool.
I don't know how to close this out after
either.
But I think we should go ahead and just let everyone know, hey, look, y'all, go ahead and hit subscribe right now if you haven't already. Give us a like and a comment, and follow us on all of our social media platforms as well, because we're having a party every single week here on The Humble Show. We're going to be back here for another little visit next week, but until then, stay humble.